Good evening, and welcome to the voters tuning in to hear the candidates for Muskego, Norway School District. We're meeting tonight in the council chambers at Muskego City Hall. We owe many heartfelt thanks to the City of Muskego staff for arranging tonight's opportunity to discuss a few of the issues faced by the district school board. I am Nancy Dickman of Muskego Women's Club. With me from Muskego Women's Club are Terry Hadziak and Nancy Kangas. We are honored to serve as moderators and timekeepers for what promises to be a very quick couple of hours. All the people in the room are aware of the pandemic and have been given options related to personal protection. The rules for tonight's discussion are as follows. Ms. Hadziak will display the time remaining on a countdown timer during any comment or response. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for opening comments. There will be 4 questions. Each candidate will be asked the same question and will be told how much time is available to reply. Please be sure to look at that timer. When the timer alarm sounds, you will be required to stop. We do not wish to silence any of you. We simply have so much to cover in our short time together. If you have more to say on any particular topic, you may wish to address this via your chosen campaign media or in your closing comments. Please do not begin your reply until you are asked by name to begin. We will rotate who will reply first to the question and proceed through all the candidates. If you need any question repeated, please ask. It will not count against your time. This is not a crosstalk debate among candidates. Out of respect for the voters listening, interruptions are not allowed. After the questions are finished, each candidate will have 3 minutes for closing comments. Let's meet our candidates. The candidates are vying for 3 seats, 3-year terms on the school board. Our candidates in alphabetic order are Tracy Blair, Joseph Bosher, Terry Boyer, James Bryce, Lori Contney, and Kevin Zimmerman. Welcome. Do any of the candidates have questions before we begin? No. Very well. We will start with introductions. Please take up to 2 minutes to introduce yourself. We will start with Tracy Blair.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Tracy Blair, and I would like to thank the Muskego Women's and City of Muskego for hosting this event tonight. My husband and I have lived in Muskego since 2003, and I'm a mother of 6 kids who have all attended the schools. When I look back at the last 3 years, I feel good about what I've accomplished. I was honored to be appointed to the CESA 1 Board of Control. CESA stands for Cooperative Educational Services Agency. CESA makes it possible for schools to work together to share staff and equipment, which in turn saves money for our district. Being on CESA 1's board, I am able to bring back to the board programs that they are offering and how it can help us achieve our goal of being the district of choice. In addition to the last 3 years, I've been putting in extra time to learn as much as I can about the school boards and how it functions. Because of this, I was recognized by the Wisconsin Association of School Boards as a level 1. This honor is given to members who attend conventions, listen to seminars, and attend workshops, sort of like a certification of learning for school boards. I have put in this additional time so that I can better serve you. Small accomplishments that I don't normally talk about are when I have families reach out to me about a particular problem they are having with the district. Buses not showing up, honoring military students who might not be at graduation, or looking to improve student reports given by the school board meetings. By the way, if you haven't caught Laura's summaries, you are truly missing out. I truly love that I can help each and every one of you out. Just reach out and I will listen and then advocate for you. I've been a nurse for 30 years and understand that listening and advocating are two key factors that I bring to the school board. I've been teaching for Marquette and UWM for 10 years, so I understand the role of being a teacher and interacting with the students. My years of being a Country Meadows PTO president has helped me to work as a team with some great parents who share my vision in creating many traditions at that school. I would welcome any questions and concerns that you would like to share with me, since I feel for me to succeed, we need to do this together again.
Thank you. Joseph Bosher.
Thank you, Nancy. I'd like to start by thanking the Muskego Women's Club and the City of Muskego for hosting this event. Thank you to those who are watching and showing your interest in the future of our schools. My name is Joseph Bosher, and I'm a current board member on the Muskego Norway School Board. I have a beautiful wife, Ashley, and I have 4 kids across 2 schools. That's Bay Lane Elementary, go Bobcats, and Muskego Lakes Middle School, go Muskies. My family and I are involved in the PTO. We're involved in sports clubs. We love attending community events. My family and I love Muskego. We're proud to call it home, and I have a long-term commitment to this district. I have a master's in business administration. It's an MBA from Marquette, and I work at Zimmerman as a software product manager, where I develop new software in healthcare. It requires a very analytical skill set, as well as thinking big and taking risks. I've been a resident of Muskego for 13 years. When I moved here, I reached out to Mayor Johnson at the time, and I asked, how can I get involved? How can I plug in? How can I serve? We met, and he said, hey, I need someone with a strong business mindset on the library board. So off I went. I've served on many boards since then. It's been a fantastic journey so far. My goal this evening is to demonstrate to you, the voters, that I want to continue the successes that we've seen. I'm a strong fiscal conservative who believes in the most efficient operations at the lowest cost. I'm one who holds a deep and proven appreciation for the value of education and critically thinking through issues. I'm one who doesn't accept the status quo, and I have a strong desire to take our schools to the next level. I'm one who advocates for our community and our values. I'm a warrior. I'm Muskego strong. I look forward to showing you why this evening.
Thank you. Terry Boyer.
Hi, everyone. Thank you as well for putting this on for us. It's greatly appreciated. My name is Terry. I've been a school board member for 3 years. I am the current school board clerk. I have deep roots in Muskego and the Wind Lake communities. I grew up in Wind Lake. My family still lives there. I lived here in Muskego now for 22 years. I'm a proud graduate of Muskego High School in 1987. I have 2 sons that graduated from one that's graduated from the high school, who's at Whitewater now, and one that is a senior. I have a bachelor's degree from UW La Crosse, and for the last 20 years, I've been a small business owner of a state licensed daycare facility. I bring a decade plus of board district community leadership experience and involvement. I have a proven track record of being able to effectively work with diverse groups of people with different thoughts, ideas, giving me the skills needed to tackle through the issues facing our community and district today and in the future. As a current police and fire commissioner for the city of Muskego, I also take the safety and security of our schools very seriously. I support the continued use of our school resource officer program and the continued collaboration between our district and the police department. Over a 10-year time span, I did serve on the board of directors for the Muskego Youth Football League. During that time, I led the task to merge together 2 competing football leagues, which grew to over 500 cheer, football, and dance participants. The success of these 2 merging programs was quite the task to do, and it resulted in the powerful football feeder program that we now see playing at the Muskego High School. I have been a steering committee for the 13 years at the City of Muskego Task Force on Safety Education. We organize National Night Out every year. This will be our 13th year this year, so we're looking forward to that. For 6 years, I served on the board of directors for the Mill Valley PTO. I organized and led many successful fundraisers and events during that time. Also, while on the PTO board, I initiated and organized an all-district PTO meeting so we could collaborate together. As you can see, I'm a person that likes a challenge, a team player able to lead, is not afraid to explore and implement change. People find me engaging, approachable, and able to listen and accept other viewpoints on all issues. I look forward to answering many questions for you tonight to learn about me. Thank you.
Thank you. James Bryce.
My name is James Bryce. I'm 49 years old. I retired as a sergeant from the Milwaukee Police Department. One of the reasons I was able to retire at such an early age is because I lived my entire life as a fiscal conservative, and that's something I would continue to do if elected to the Muskego Norway School Board. We lived in Muskego for the last 4 years, and one of the biggest reasons we picked Muskego to move to is because of the schools. I think they're great schools, and I want to help keep them that way. I began my selfless service at the age of 17. I joined the Army when I was 17. I had my 18th birthday in basic training. I served in Saudi Arabia and Southern Iraq for Desert Shield and Desert Storm. I got out of the Army, joined the Wisconsin Army National Guard, served a long time there, served in the Sunni Triangle of Iraq in 2004, 2005, and in Baghdad, Iraq, 2009, 2010. That military service taught me leadership. When I retired from the military, I was retired as a first sergeant, which is the second highest enlisted rank you can achieve. And in order to achieve that, you have to have that track record of leadership. I think that leadership is very, very important, both as a formal leader and as an informal leader. That military service taught me the importance of teamwork. You couldn't accomplish anything if you didn't work as a team. No matter how great you are, you got to work as a team. At military service, I also am a life member of the Veterans of Foreign Wars, and I'm the vice president of the Red Arrow Veterans Association. I value honesty, integrity, and ethics. I strive to choose the difficult right over the easy wrong. I try to be humble. I know I don't know everything. So that attitude I have, I think is a good, user-friendly attitude. I have a daughter in first grade at Mill Valley, so the long-term success of the school district is very, very important to me. Some of the things to talk about that they teach there is be respectful, be responsible, be kind, and I think that's important to do.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lori Cotney.
Lori Cotney.
Sorry. Hi, I'm Lori Cotney, and I want to thank you for this opportunity to share my thoughts and ideas. While my husband grew up in Muskego, I grew up just on the other side of the border in New Berlin, but we have lived here in Muskego for over 33 years. I've been thinking of running for school board for quite a long time, and it's not because I feel our district is failing. It's not because of who is running. It was really because this was the right time for me. And I feel I possess attributes that would be valuable to the Muskego Norway School District. I want to be a servant leader and give back to my community. School board members serve their stakeholders and taxpayers and should actively listen to them when making board decisions. I am an active listener, and I enjoy hearing from various stakeholders and multiple perspectives to determine a best course of action. I can do this while remaining faithful to my role of assuring the best education and educational environments for our children while being fiscally responsible. I decided to run because I'm passionate about education, and I want to serve my community using my experience and perspective in the areas of assessment, teaching, and learning. I have been involved with education at multiple levels, local, state, and national, since I was a teenager, and I understand the impact of not having a foundational education on health, wellness, and overall success in life. I believe in learning for success and not just to pass a test. I have developed expertise in the areas of communication and authentic assessment as learning. Excuse me. Communication is key to effective school board member, and assessment is key in determining whether learning has occurred, how to build on it, and how to use learning for life skills. Our children are our greatest treasure and future. We need to invest wisely in their education and prepare them as best we can for their future success. Opportunity does favor the prepared. Thank you.
Kevin Zimmerman.
Hello, my name is Kevin Zimmerman. I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to talk about myself and answer some questions for the community. I'm married with 3 kids. 2 of them currently attend the district, one to an elementary school, Bay Lane, and the other one to Lake New Middle School. I am currently a police officer in the city of Milwaukee, where I've worked for the last 13 years. I'm a conservative, and in my free time, I love to coach. I coach my son's Little League team, and I'm going to continue that this year. And I also have volunteered before COVID in the schools. I'm a conservative, and some of my qualities that I possessed is I'm able to listen to both sides of any issues that comes from my profession. I'm also able to remain neutral, calm, and collective, and listen to all sides of any story that comes about. I'm also able to make decisions based on evidence and facts, and also remain calm under pressure. But I'm also a strong voice, my concerns or support of an initiative. I'm running for school board because I've served Milwaukee for a long time as an officer. Now I have a calling to serve my family's hometown of Muskego. It's important for our children's future to continue to work to develop them into fundamentally members of society. I'd like to enhance our trades. I would like to continue expanding officer offerings and or requirements of students to take budgeting classes and learn development skills that will help them in the long run. There are many immediate issues that we need to be addressed in our schools. I want to make the right decision for our children's needs. I want to review and understand how to support our schools even more. While I think that the district is strong, there's always room for improvement. I'm here to support and spearhead that next chapter.
Thank you. Let's begin our questions. You'll have 3 minutes for this question. There is a continuing challenge to fund schools and educational programs. What is your longer-term view on facility needs and funding for educational programs in the district? Let's begin with Joseph Bosher.
All right, I get the lucky draw for the first one, right? All right. Could you repeat the question just to make sure I'm capturing it correctly?
That's long.
Yeah, it was a long one.
Certainly. There's a continuing challenge to fund schools and education programs. What is your longer-term view on facility needs and funding for educational programs in the district?
Okay, thank you. So whenever people talk about facilities, oftentimes it's a keyword for maybe referendum. And I just want to say that I'm currently not in favor of a referendum, largely because I believe that the data doesn't seem to support it. Now, we did a survey a few years ago and sent a survey out to the community, and we put together a master plan. We just talked about this at a recent board meeting. And, a lot of the things came back pretty low in terms of facility needs. There was one area that came up and bubbled up near the top, and that was around STEM, which is the science, technology, engineering, and math. And so what I'd like to do is take a little bit of a finer look at some additional funding opportunities related to that area. But I don't want to do it at the expense of taking on any new debt. Now, I was talking recently with Julie Kelly, who heads up our finance area within the district. And, she's mentioning that we have ESSER funds available. These ESSER funds are essentially money that's provided from the government for the COVID-related issues. And there may look like there may be $2.5 million available to us. We don't know yet, of course, but I think we could take some of that money and apply it to those STEM areas. I think there's always three key questions that I'm looking to ask as it relates to facilities. One is, what are the sentiments of the community? What do they value? What do they hold? The second one is, what is the long-term financial impact to the community and to the school district? And the third thing I'm asking is, does it improve the educational outcomes per dollar spent? And so those are some of the things that I think through as it relates to facilities. In terms of education and curriculum, I think, if you survey, if you are aware, our students and our families have indicated over the last 5 years that 85% of them are looking to go to either a 2-year or a 4-year school. And again, that kind of falls into some of the STEM areas. And so I think there's a continued focus on that area, both in terms of, the trades as well as, those that are more geared towards engineering and Project Lead the Way and so forth, which is a pre-engineering program. So yeah, I certainly think there's opportunities to continue to grow those areas. I want to be very fiscally responsible and responsive to the taxpayers. But that's, I guess, how I'm balancing those two elements.
Thank you. Terry, you will be our next respondent. Did you need the question
No,
repeated?
I'm good.
Okay. Terry Blair.
All right. So our facilities are in fantastic shape right now. We just built the new schools, renovated a school, fixed a lot of things in our capital budget. How do you know that we can do this? We took $48 million from the last referendum, and we still lowered the tax levy in the city of Muskego. For 10 years, we have been lowering the tax levy in Muskego. That is called responsible budgeting, mindful, purposeful budgeting. We are able to, we're at the mercy of the state for funding because that changes every 2 years. So when we plan our budgeting, we have to anticipate the possibility that we may have a cut. So in order to anticipate all of that, plus our needs, we have a capital budget. We have a list. It's a 10-year capital budget that we plan for, but things come up. So by spending wisely, purposefully budgeting your money, we're a zero-based, evidence-based budget. So each year we start at zero and each building will tell you what they need and we budget out from there. Being fiscally responsible allows us to have those extra funds available for us to cover the cost of extra things, plus continue to cover the regular capital budget items that we do. Future planning, that's huge. We don't put an entire roof on a building. That's planned out over many, many years so that we always have those funds available. COVID, we weren't really sure a year ago, was this going to mess up our budget? What was coming from the state? What was coming from the federal government? We had no idea. But because of the amazing shape of our budget and our financial situation in our district, we will most likely not see much of an impact of that. We have money that came from the state in the CARES Act. We have the ESSER funds that he talked about. There's a lot of funding available that we have been able to utilize for that and that amount. But because we are responsible, fiscally responsible, conservative with our money, and we spend wisely, we're able to handle all of that. Some other important funding sources that we have are 4K adds funding to us. That's important. Open enrollment within our limits of our facilities. That is important. These are all extra things. Summer school. We've added summer school and that program has grown. That adds extra funds to our budget that help. So we're always looking at ways that we can make sure that we have the money that we need to cover what we have. I don't see any financial challenges in the near future right now, and I don't see any immediate need for any facility changes or improvements at that point.
Okay, thank you. James Bryce.
One thing that impressed me for Muskego Norway School District is how they were able to not only keep taxes low, but lower the tax levy. Anytime you talk about, hey, we need to spend money on this, or talk about what programs you want to improve, that can be a scary question or proposition for anyone that's running for office because who wants to have their taxes raised. But I think they've done a good job so far of making sure that doesn't happen. Some of the facility needs, one of the things I was worried about was school safety and making sure that we have the setup in place, the infrastructure for schools to make sure our schools are safe. My background and experience I've trained officers from other departments on how to respond to school shootings, and we always talk about the infrastructure part. So I took a tour of some of our schools and saw some of the security measures that were in place, and they were very, very impressive. So much so that I don't think that money needs to go there. Another topic that came up was the STEM and the technology. So I ended up talking to Christy Brooks. She's the director of secondary education, so she covers middle school and high school, and talked to her about that program. And I took a tour with Jeremiah Johnson. He's the director of operations for the school district. And after talking to them and seeing what I saw that the program seemed to be pretty good. There's a lot of community involvement, and that's really, really impressive. But it seems like the limiting factor in that is the facilities itself. That the shop space is kind of small, especially at the high school. And then we talked about how can that be improved. And that was discussed, and that's not a $1 or $2 million thing. That's a bigger thing that might be, a referendum might be the most appropriate thing in determining if the taxpayers want that money spent to improve that. But I think the STEM, we're sitting really, really good. This is from what I saw, way better than I initially thought it was. Some of the improvements I think we might need, special education. I think part of it is training for the staff. Some of the staff, my understanding is there's not as much training as they would like. And some of the facilities, we might need to improve some of the things for our autistic students. Shouldn't cost a whole lot of money, but I think that's really, really important. And I think there's the highest turnaround is in our special ed department. And I think for our special ed students, I think it's really important to have that consistency. And then the other issue I heard about was social workers. Maybe there's one social worker per grade level or for school level, so elementary, middle, and high school. I don't know if we have to expand our social workers. We have one per school versus one per level of education. But I think we're sitting pretty good, but it is a challenge. That STEM is the biggest challenge, I think.
Thank you.
So
Lori Contney.
anytime that we think about how we get our funding for our schools, it's really a complex formula when we look at tax levies and what all goes into that. And I think that Muskego, Norway School District has done a really nice job of managing that. And, you know, that is something I would continue to advocate for. I know that one of the things that's really hard, you know, we've actually done a really nice job of completing our renovations to Bay Lane as well as Mill Valley, and we've added a brand new middle school. So as other people have said, I think we're sitting in a nice place as far as facilities go. The one thing that I think we could do is if we do lack the space or the funding, we certainly could reach out and do more with partnerships within the business community. And do they have space where students could learn in an authentic environment with their life skills and application within that environment? So I think we already have a number of community partnerships, which is phenomenal. But I think we can be really creative in how we reach out and utilize our community to help both educate our students in an authentic environment, as well as allowing for our business partners to benefit from the services that our students could provide under their tutelage. So those are just some ideas. And I know the hardest thing is trying to decide, you know, wants and needs. I know I was kind of laughing with my husband when I said we just had to spend a boatload of money to put a new roof on our house this past summer. Did I want a new roof? Absolutely not. Did we need a new roof? Yes, we did. I would have much rather have spent that money on a brand new kitchen, since my 1970s kitchen is pretty outdated, but it works. And that would be more of a want than a need. So I think as a school board, we really need to make tough decisions about wants versus needs. I mean, people come to us, they don't come to us thinking that their thing is a want. They feel it's a need. And I think we've done a good job of looking at our STEAM, which includes our arts as well. And I think we need to continue to focus on those. One thing that I would like to see, and it may be just my naivety with not having the intricate workings of the actual budget and what gets spent and where and allocated, but I would really like to do a deep dive into what we are doing in our schools about authentic assessment. And you hear me saying that a lot. That's my area of expertise and research. And it's really about not just what a student knows, but how a student is able to use what they know. The more life experiences, the more authentic type of learning, so that it's not just to pass a test, but it's for a life skill. It's lifelong learning. So I'd like to take a little deeper dive into, you know, how are we allocating resources, because it takes time and resources to do authentic assessment, and it takes teacher training, but your outcomes are so far better than if we just teach to a test per se. So thank you.
Thank you. Kevin Zimmerman.
Okay, regarding all these issues, I, for one, am a strong component for keeping the tax levy as low as it possibly can, if not trying to lower what it currently is. Muskego has phenomenal schools, and it comes from every level, from the high school all the way down to the school board. But part of it is that I believe we need more transparency with the community. We need the community involvement in the funding and the schools, and more than we do right now. I believe we should be getting out more often surveys to the community and get their input on what our priorities should be. Just from doing some research, it seems to me that a lot of the past funding has been going a lot towards the sports. Sports are incredibly important, but with that being said, some other jobs were passed up. I mean, just recently I found out that Lakeview Elementary School just got air conditioning in 2020. I mean, it's 2020. So I believe that there needs to be a good hard look and priorities. And I know the funding for the football field was done through a referendum, and it should have been at least added to the referendum, if not talked about it. There's no reason that the kids can't have air conditioning. I mean, that's crazy and mind-boggling to me. I want to actually prioritize things that will help actual education and review them for each location. A big issue for me, especially now so more with the pandemic, is mental health. That needs to be addressed with funding, and it also needs to be figured out because a lot of kids are depressed because they can't see their friends. They can't have that interaction that they need. Even something as simple as a mask. They don't have that interaction of seeing facial expressions and emotions. So I believe that's a big priority of mine, is to try to figure out how we can help mental health in the schools. Like I said, what I would want to do with the remainder amount is try to get feedback and try to figure out a plan. Try to come up with a 1 year, a 2 year, and a 3 year plan and then some, and try to figure out what needs to be done to save money and what projects that we can do to continue to support the growth of the district. And that includes trying to expand trades. I know trades is an expensive program and a lot of the cost is passed on to the students. But I believe that's a strong need in this community because not everybody is meant for a 4 year school. I didn't go to a 4 year school. I went to a technical college and got an associate's degree in carpentry and police science. And I believe students need to know all aspects of it and have the best buildings to work in and grow and thrive.
Thank you. Tracy Blair.
Can you just repeat the question one more time since it's been
a while.
some
It
time
has been a
before?
while.
I just want to confirm.
Yes.
Okay.
There is a continuing challenge to fund schools and education programs. What is your longer-term view on facility needs and funding for educational programs in the district?
Great, thanks for that question. So there's several things that our district does in order to make sure that we're doing the right thing. And that is surveying and researching and making sure that that information that's out there for the kids is appropriate. We have what's called the eye on the goal. The eye on the goal is what we kind of follow so that we make sure that we have what's necessary for the kids to succeed once they graduate. So academic conversations, student-led goal setting, closed reading, note-taking, questioning, and choice and voice. So making sure that we have those kids right on track where they should be. At this moment in time, we have 13 students that are doing an early college credit program. And these are programs where they can take, while they're in high school, degrees or classes, I should say, classes so that they can attain certain things. We have 4 people that are taking nursing assistants, architectural history, structural concepts, sales and professional development, industrial safety. We got intro to building trades, machine tool theory and machine tool operation, and real estate law. So these are just some of the options that our high schoolers have in order to get that additional education that they need. So going back to the funding, if you look at where we are for fund balance, we're in good shape. We have over $17 million that we can use if we have things that we run against that we need to fix on an emergency basis. We also have ESSER funds, which you guys were talking about. That's elementary and secondary school emergency relief, and FEMA, so the Federal Emergency Management Agency grants that will be able to be used towards things that we've had to implement because of COVID, right? All those additional shields and hand sanitizers and such have to be paid for, and we have those funds to do that. We are in good shape with our Moody bond rating. We're at an AA2, which is second from the top. So if we had to go into funding, that we could use that good rating for that. Now, when it comes to educational programs, We have the Connect Academy, which has all of the different places that the kids can go to learn trades and such. I do feel that with the trades, the STEM program, we definitely need to kind of upgrade that. With technology, it's changing on a daily basis. So I think that we do need to get into those classrooms and kind of update what they do have available. When you're talking about how we're funded about things, I think we're in good shape with the taxes being kept low, which I want to continue to do. But then also look for other avenues like making sure that we have open enrollment at the right level so that we have the right amount of kids with the right amount of teachers, not having additional spending for that. And then our 4K program also has brought in a lot of additional funding too.
Thank you. Thank you all. Well, you said the last question was a long one. Okay, I will read this slowly.
Oh, boy.
You have 5 minutes for this question. Student behavior often presents challenges to our educators. Tell us your thoughts on the board's role in addressing none or some or all of these challenges. Vaping on campus, student drug tests, bullying, and mental health assessments and interventions at school. We'll begin with Terry Boyer.
Okay. Okay, so I'll start with vaping. I have zero tolerance for vaping in school. It is a major health crisis going on in our school. We get a report from the high school principal. He is extremely concerned, which makes me very concerned. It's very difficult to detect. It's negatively affecting our students. We are testing what's in the vaping devices. We're finding other things in that. It's not a good thing. We need to have a major overhaul and a major push to get vaping out of our schools. We have detectors. We do as much as we can. It is a major health crisis that we need to address. Random drug testing. I am 100% for the continuation of random drug testing. It works. It keeps some of that out of the school. We do bring the dogs in and they do regular sweeps of the school. I am in favor of continuing to do that. We do look for nicotine now in our random drug tests, which is new. And we are finding that. And what we can do when we find this is we can provide education to parents. We can help these kids get off of these things now before it becomes a lifelong habit, which we don't want to do. Some of these things are really difficult to find at home, so it's important for us to partner with families and help our students succeed. Bullying, bullying is horrendous. Since the entire, I think that it's gotten worse with even adults during this time of the very stressful last year of all of our lives. We see it in adults, we're going to see it in our children. It's unfortunate. There are children in school that are bullied by other individuals and it needs to be addressed immediately. We do have policies and procedures that we do follow for that. We give opportunities for children and families to work together to address the behaviors that are happening. And unfortunately, sometimes when those things don't work and things progress on, the board's role in that point is it will come to us and then we have to help intervene and help that child. I see it as a way to help that child succeed in their future. And hopefully it will make a difference and they will become a better person after that. Let's see. We do have bully awareness programs in school. We do focus on positive behavior interventions and supports. So that's important to teach kids right from the beginning, from little on, to inject this into their education, to be kind, respectful of others, and grow up to be that kind of adult as well. Mental health assessment. Mental health has definitely been problem. It was a problem before COVID hit. I think it is more of a problem now. We have a large group of mental health professionals that work for our district. They work in collaboration with our teachers, with our principals, and they do a really nice team approach. We can identify kids that are having trouble, and we can intervene with them and help them through these mental health crises. But it is definitely something that we're seeing an increase of, and it's definitely something that I'm hopeful that we get more state budget money to us so that we can do more programming for our kids. We do mindfulness training. We train all of our staff on various programs that they can use in the school with their kids. And they also, like I said, work very closely with all of our psychologists and our social workers in the school. I think that's about all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. James Bryce?
I'm going to bounce around here a little bit. The bullying, and I think that's kind of a big deal. I want to go back to what I said in my open statement about the be respectful, be responsible, be kind. It's important that we teach our kids that, but I also think it's important that we as adults model that behavior. So just because you have a disagreement with someone doesn't give you an excuse to have, that lack of civil discourse. I think I've heard some complaints that perhaps some bullying and some actual physical assault, student on student, there might be a problem, an issue with that, and lack of consequences for the students that are striking other students. Do I think there needs to be a policy where if that type of behavior happens, I think should it be reported, by name what student is involved and what corrective action was taken? Maybe. That way you can hopefully correct the behavior in the child. And if that behavior isn't corrected, through counseling, or if it results in some type of formal discipline, I think it's that important, and also protects the school district in that they can establish that track record of these are the behaviors that we saw that we don't want children exhibiting, and this is what we did to correct it. I think that's important, that liability prevention for the district. I think that's important to continue the school resource officer. As far as I'm concerned, I will always support the school resource officers being in school to help prevent those problems from happening in the first place. I know that they interact with students at the earlier grade levels, not necessarily an enforcement issue, but more of an officer-friendly issue, which I think is important. And my understanding is at the high school level, there might be a little more enforcement action, whether it's the dog sniffs of lockers and vehicles. I think that's important. That I talked earlier about the security infrastructure in place, and I'm very happy with that, from what I saw. So that part I think we're good on. But maybe the human portion of that we might need to work on a little bit. The vaping part and the drug use, I think every student should be able to come to school without fear of being bullied or assaulted or be exposed to drugs. It's critically important, especially if they're seen at home. They don't need to see it at work or see it at school. The mental health assessments, I talked earlier about the social workers, where there's, one at the elementary level, one at the middle school level, one at the high school level. Maybe that needs to be expanded a little bit. But I think that's really important that kids feel safe in school and don't be exposed to those kinds of things. Am I a little bit harder or more severe on it because of my prior occupation? Yeah, maybe, but it's these kids have to come first. And, I put myself in, my daughter's shoes, and I couldn't imagine how angry I would be if, some students continually bullying her or hitting her. I would want her to feel safe. And maybe there's an issue why this child that is actually exhibiting that behavior, that very well could be an indicator of a larger mental health issue that we might need to step in and help and find resources for that child. And that concludes my answer.
Thank you. Lori Contney?
So I grew up with siblings with learning disabilities that were bullied, and it was really unfortunate, and it was life-changing for them. And we were just fortunate to have the wonderful parents that we had that were so supportive and were able to provide that love and support that were needed to get through those tough times. So the bullying piece really hits home to me. I had to be an advocate for older siblings at the age of 3, 4, and 5 when they were bullied. I think that bullying should be addressed regardless of whether it's physical, verbal, emotional, or cyber. And unfortunately, it's more difficult to monitor and control for cyberbullying because it's so easy to say or something when you're not face to face or when it's an anonymous bullying that's happening. I think all bullying should be investigated. And I have to also say that sometimes we have to think about the person that's the bully. And that child or that teenager is often a person crying out for help just as much as the person that's being bullied. And I'm thinking we have to look on both sides of that and really figure out, what makes this person feel like they need to act in this way. So I'm a big believer in teaching, modeling, expecting, and then assessing. So whether that's through feedback or consequences, those things then lead to accountability. And I think all students need to be held accountable. I love, talking about the school resource officers because I think when you have a positive relationship between the resource officers, the students, the parents, and the staff, that sets a really good example. And maybe there's more trust there, less fear or anxiety, because I think a lot of bullying is also related to mental health. And I can tell you from a person who's taught in higher education for 27 years, this last decade has been unprecedented for the increase in mental health problems that our students are demonstrating and how they're struggling with just getting through. And some of that is also related to the fact that, they kind of grew up in that participation trophy philosophy and it's hard for them to hear negative feedback when they want to hear positive feedback all the time. And it's a big change when they get to my world and, it's life and there is successes and failures. So I think, all of us can do a better job of balancing expectations and how, life is building grit and resilience is all around making mistakes as long as there's safe mistakes and you can be supported for doing those and rewarded for the things that you do well. So I think we need a balance between the two of those so that our students learn how to develop this resiliency and this grit, because we definitely need to address the mental health issues, not just because of COVID. We've been seeing this building more and more over the past few years. Looking at drug testing, I definitely agree that that should be mandatory. I can't think of anything that can destroy a person's life more than being addicted. And we see that a lot too, again, tied to mental health. So we keep seeing this mental health woven through all of this because it's such a complex issue to try to unravel. And oftentimes it is very tied in. But that's certainly something I would advocate for. I know that vaping, and I'll be the first to tell you that I wasn't even aware that this was an issue. My daughter's not in school anymore. I don't see it in my world, but I know it's an issue because I've heard about it as I started to dig in and do a little bit more research about it. And I guess I feel like anything that is banned, whether that's because it's age related, alcohol, smoking, vaping, or whether it's illegal like drugs, all of that needs to be enforced. It needs to be consistently enforced. And I also think it goes back to education. How are we educating not just students, but parents and staff? And how are we engaging our student body, our parents and our staff? Because oftentimes there's resistance to solutions if you're not involved in the process of discussing and determining what those solutions might be. So how do we better engage our entire community and stakeholders when we feel that these are issues that are really impacting our educational environment? So thank you for the opportunity. That's a lot of things to unravel.
Thank you. Kevin Zimmerman.
So a lot of good things were just said. I mean, I am a strong component of the school resource officers being in law enforcement. I think there's an absolute need for that, and it helps deter a lot of incidences with drugs and vaping and other issues that happen in the school, including bullying. But in essence, we live in a society that is run by social media. And a lot of kids have access to that, and that plays a huge role into the bullying issue. Myself, I was bullied when I was in elementary school up until about middle school. I weighed almost 250 pounds before I lost about over 100 pounds. I used to get made fun of my weight all the time. I was depressed. I was sad. So I know firsthand the effects that bullying can have on kids. And it's very hard, and it hurts their mental well-being. And you just, the timer's not running. But it hurts their well-being to the point where it makes kids, think of things that they wouldn't normally think of. And that needs to stop, because a lot of times when somebody gets bullied, that leads to depression, that even possibly, worst case scenario, leads to suicide. And that's a huge issue with with kids nowadays, where they think that there's nothing else what they can do is take care of himself by committing suicide. I've been to too many scenes where I've seen that happen, and a lot of it did stem from bullying. So that's a big issue that we need to take care of. Vaping is another thing. I mean, I'm not for vaping. I've never touched that stuff. I don't know why people think it's fun to do, but it's usually when you get into like the THC part of it, or the flavors, that really affects your lungs, and it can lead to permanent damage. I've read numerous articles and done numerous things where it shows that kids have long-term effects, if not permanent effects, in their lungs forever because they decided to vape. And it can be a lot worse than just smoking cigarettes, which also shouldn't be allowed in school, because everything above that is 18 and older. And even if you're an 18-year-old, you don't need to be bringing that to school. A lot of the stuff regarding drug testing, I believe that it should be random. Of course, you should know when you're going to get it, but mainly for extracurricular activities, especially sports. Now, in regards to, if you have, somebody that's reaching out and you can tell that they're currently not all there, yeah, I'm all for it, because, a lot of being a police officer, I see a lot of drug problems coming from the suburbs into the inner city to get their opiates and their heroin. And that's a strong thing nowadays. And I want to make sure that, kids know that what could happen to you and what we can do to try to help and support you to not use those hard drugs, because, they can literally kill you right away. And I've seen it happen. Not everybody has Narcan. So, that's something that I'm really strong for. The other issue, like I expressed in my first statement, is the mental health. With the pandemic, mental health has been, deteriorating more than usual. That kind of puts the mental health issue into more, with depression, anxiety, other issues, not being able to see your friends and interact with them. I believe that needs to be addressed, and I know there's counselors and staff in the schools to help with that situation, but I believe that you could always use more training to better identify students that are in need of that extra help before it gets to that point where mental health issues can lead to bullying. It can lead to drug use, and it can lead to people doing things that they wouldn't normally do. And a lot of that also comes from the home life. So you need to make sure you educate kids on all aspects of vaping, on bullying, continue doing, PSAs, telling kids the effects of it. If you have to have a conference in the gym. And, when I was in high school many years ago, you need to keep that going on. That's all I want to say. That's 5 minutes.
Thank you. Tracy Blair.
So I first want to ask you, so you said vaping, student drug tests, mental health, bullying. Was there a fifth one? Or was it just the 4?
No, but I'm happy to repeat the whole thing.
No, that's okay, as long as I got the 4 that you listed.
Yes.
Vaping, drug tests, mental health, and bullying.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. All right, so this is probably going to be one of my favorite questions, just because I'm a nurse at Children's and all we do is advocate for good good health conditions, right? So first, vaping. So I reached out to Todd Irvine, the principal at the high school, and said, we have a problem. There's an epidemic going on within our high school, and there's a lot of kids that are vaping. I'm thinking it's at least 0.25%. It probably could be higher. So I reached out to one of my anesthesiologists that I work in at surgery, Dr. Diaz, and she does talks on vaping all the time. And I asked her if it would be possible to put her vaping in service that she gave to us staff online, and she was willing to do it. And so then I talked to Todd to put it into the newsletter. So that was one of the greatest things that I thought, because she really talks about the effects of your lungs when you are vaping. We saw, 19 kids who had EVALI. So that's a permanent lung damage that you get from vaping. My only concern about all of this is that if we have 26% of kids who are vaping, we can't suspend and get rid of 26% of our student body. So we need to come up with a program or something that we can help these kids fight the addiction that they have with the vaping. And the other thing that's included with that is THC. So they're also adding marijuana to it, which is not a good thing. All right, so that's vaping. Random drug testing, I completely agree with. We do it for all of our activities and parking. It is done quite often. Plus, we also have the police department come and do random drug searches within our parking lot, which is phenomenal. The only problem is that it doesn't always detect exactly when the person does have the drug. So we still have to work on it, because the kids are getting, because I'm in the Citizens Academy, I'm actually getting a lot of additional information from the police department, which is great. But they're saying the kids are getting smart. They're taking it out of the cars, and then they're putting it in their backpacks, and they're taking it out of the backpacks, and they're putting it in the pockets. So and they can't really search bodies. So they're getting creative, and we have to get creative with our testing too. Mental health, holy cow. So at Children's, I get weekly emails about what's happening with the mental health of kids. I just received this email it was March 16th, 2021. And it says, COVID-19 pandemic restrictions take emotional toll on teens. So 36% of parents are noticing their teenage daughters are being affected by anxiety, depression. 24% is sleep issues, withdrawal from families, and aggressive behavior. So we're seeing a lot of problems bringing up to the top of the surface for these kids, and we got to help them with that. Luckily, the school district does have a program in place called mindful learning. And the mindfulness does work. It helps to reduce that anxiety that the kids are having with some breathing techniques. It has distraction things that they're supposed to do. And it was so cute when I was walking door to door in a subdivision in Muskego. There was 4 little kids that were out, and of course they ran up to me because I had stickers, and who doesn't like stickers? But I didn't have dinosaur stickers, I just had Blair stickers. But anyways, he was saying how he does mindfulness at his school, and it really helps. It helps him de-stress while he's taking a test or he's trying to deal with whatever's going on in life, which adds to the social media and the bullying. And if I ever see another TikTok thing, I'd be fine not seeing any. Or even the kids when they're playing their PS4s. I'm thinking they're getting attacked downstairs when they're yelling at the screen and doing, it's not normal. They need to handle their stress a different way, and that's just not the way to do it. One of the things I thought was kind of cool that I was able to bring to the school board was about ACEs. So ACEs is the adverse childhood experiences that kids experience that affects their lives. It affects them in school. It affects them when they're dealing with emotional problems and stuff. And if kids already have these in place, they're going to struggle with how they're dealing with it in the real world. And so with the mindfulness in place and different programs that we could have, I think it would help. I do agree that we should have our school resource officers available. I think it's great that they build these rapport with these kids so these kids feel comfortable going to them with their problems. The DARE program is good, although I have heard that do we need to start it earlier? Are we not starting it early enough? These kids have to get this information ahead of time so that they know that they have to deal with it. Any of these problems that the kids have, they're going to have difficulty concentrating, focusing, or completing tasks. And that's not a good learning environment that we want to create. So we need to come up with avenues to help them be better in school and produce great leaders in the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Joseph Bosher.
So you asked the question around what can the school board do? And really the school board, it has two opportunities in this area and what it's tasked with. One of them is setting policy, and the second one is showing community leadership. In regards to the vaping and the drugs, look, I'm not a medical professional. I've read some of the literature on vaping and the harms. I think it's pretty serious stuff. We do have a policy that does prohibit electronic smoking and vaping devices. This applies to both staff and students, so there's an active policy in this area. In the larger context, my sons have gone through drug education classes, the DARE program and things like that. So, to bring awareness to our student population. I know the ongoing canine searches has been mentioned as well. And we do the random drug testing in our schools. We were actually one of the first in the county to lead the way in this area. And the way it works is, if there is a positive hit identified and you're involved in a co-curricular, you lose your parking spot. There's potential consequences there. Now, I know Todd is the principal at Muskego High School. He's talked about ways in which maybe students can earn that right back. It gets a little, tricky, kind of working through that. But the first step is really making people aware. And when they have the testing, and sometimes these parents don't even know. And this is the first opportunity that the parents are made aware. So the first step is make awareness. And then the second step is change. And we provide references to reputable drug counseling services. And that has worked. These tactics have worked. The recidivism rate has dropped pretty significantly. In regards to the bullying, we currently have policies on this. So we have policies on hazing. We have policies on anti-harassment. We have a specific policy on bullying. We have policies on code of classroom conduct. We have policies on discipline processes, right? And when there's a constant repeated behavior with fear, intimidation, and harm, this is not good. We want a safe, productive, positive educational environment. I know my kids love that. Look, as a parent, I think we've all been through these awkward middle and high school, stages. So we say and do things that are perhaps less than ideal. And my personal belief is that we should always work to reconcile between parties at the lowest level possible, between students, and then if that doesn't work, teachers, principals, district administration, last resort, you're bringing in the school board. I know somebody that recently went through this, and they were constantly name called in the classroom. And so the student asked the other student to stop. It didn't happen. It kept on going on for weeks and weeks and weeks. The student went to the parent, said, "I'm having this problem. It's really bugging me." The parent, wrote to the teacher and the principal, and they talked to the student that was who was causing this. A detention was served, and the problem stopped. It stopped, and problem solved, and I think that's great. So I do think that bullying is going to happen. We don't want to encourage it. I think steps have been taken in this area. In regards to the mental health, the numbers aren't pretty here. About 50% of kids experience a mental health disorder before they turn 18. And suicide is actually the second leading cause of death amongst kids. It's very, very sad. So I know that our staff have been trained in the trauma informed care. They've been trained in identifying some of the mental health issues among students and picking up on certain clues. I know my boys have had days going through the mental health training and awareness and the mindfulness programs and so forth. I think these are all great things. Every single one of our schools has a school psychologist or a social worker and a counselor. These are great things. And really it comes down to providing a nurturing and loving environment, both at home and in the school, and making a safe environment. I personally question the use of some of these social media, especially amongst the much younger kids. I question whether that's really healthy and ideal. I have serious concerns about that. I'll also say, here's what doesn't help, all right? Keeping the kids in lockdown. I do not think that helps. And we've been a district, again, that has stayed open 100% of the time, and we've greatly reduced the psychological cost that are associated with those lockdowns. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, after a long question like that, everybody, take a deep breath. This next one is 3 minutes. Curriculum decisions can have remarkable effects on students and communities for decades. Please share your views on the changing curriculums that include technology use in education or teaching students for careers that don't exist today. We'll start with James Bryce.
That's actually one thing I looked into, especially the technology curriculum. And one thing that really, really impressed me is the interaction that the school district has with local businesses, which they tend to be, they're not restrained by bureaucracy. They're motivated by, in part, by profit. And they might be more innovative on how they look at things. So I think it's really great that we have students that are working, part-time or apprenticeships with these local businesses. I think that's huge. It's pretty cheap for our school system because they don't have to build these big buildings, these big businesses where all these kids are doing all this work. These kids are learning how things are done in the real world, which is really, really important. And I think that they're not restrained by we can't afford this, or we're not going to look ahead. We're just going to be stuck in how we're doing things now. So I think that's just huge, and I think that it seems like Muskego Norway School District has it figured out as far as that goes. And like I said, the only limitation that I've seen is just the facilities that we have. So I think we're doing great. I've talked to some graduates who aren't yet parents of students, and they've talked about how the focus was on college prep versus other things like the trades. But he'd been 7 years since he's been in school, and the impression I got is that's changed, especially in the last 5 years. So I think we're doing good on that, and I think just keep sustaining what we're doing, and we'll be good.
Thank you. Lori Contney.
So one of the first things that strikes me is, again, we do have a lot of, great partnerships with the community. And again, to me, that's really important because I believe in that authentic learning and that we can utilize those partnerships to our advantage. I get a little, I think technology is important, and that's certainly something that we've been focused on. We're one of the few, I think the stat I saw that there's only 45 or 48% of schools that actually have a computer science program, and Muskego is one of them, Muskego, Norway. But one of the things I also noticed that is when there's such an emphasis on technology, we lose those personal pieces and those communication and interpersonal skills, and that relying on your own brain to come up with information and to problem solve through things versus to rely on the technology to do that for you. So again, I go back to that, really needing that balance. I see a trend where our students in general are less prepared with reading, writing, grammar, spelling, math, and just being able to critically think. Sometimes I feel like they just want me to tell them what to think rather than have them figure out how to think. And some of that, it may be related to the fact that we do have such an emphasis on technology, but it is our future. So you have to balance that. What do we need for the future? But going into the other part of that question that you had asked was thinking about what do we need to teach our students for the future that may not exist today? Well, if you think about things that we didn't have, I can't even begin to imagine what my kids will say to their kids about, well, we never had that, because it just is incredible what we have available to us. But I think the best way that we can do that is by giving them the basic education, the foundation that allows them to be able to use the knowledge that they've learned, apply it in their life skills, and then be able to adapt that information to whatever that new occupation or whatever that new profession might be that may come along. And so building the foundation, the building blocks to me are critical. And again, as an educator at the college level, I'm seeing oftentimes that those building blocks are not as strong as they used to be, and we're spending more time remediating those lower level skills that they should have had, just so that they can then participate in the classes that they need to be able to engage within their majors. So I really believe strongly in that foundational education, and I really believe that we need to balance technology with critical thinking so that our students, regardless of what they want to do with their lives, trades, the military, secondary college, that they can be successful.
Thank you. Kevin Zimmerman?
I think technology is extremely important in the schools, but also it can also be extremely hazardous in the schools. It empowers the kids to become initiative and foster creativities in the schools, and come up with new ideas and new ways to do things. Helps develop classes. We need to develop classes that are scenario-based, so kids develop real-world skills, which more or less you don't get that through the technology. You can get the facts behind it, but you don't get that hands-on real-world experience. And it helps kids learn how to solve things. Technology is a balance. You need to be able to do that, but also be able to use your soft skills at the same time. You can't do one or another. They kind of coexist together. I believe, the Connect Academy is an awesome tool for students to going out in the real world and getting that real world experience that they need. Because a lot of times you don't get that experience until you're kicked out the door after you graduated from high school, you're going to college, or you're going to go work a job and you're like, oh my gosh, what do I do now? I don't know. I think we need to emphasize and teach that more. So quite frankly, when you're 20, 30 years old, you're not living in your parents' basement trying to figure out how to make ends meet. So like I said, technology can be the devil. We know how it is, but it also can be a godsend. I mean, every year technology advances. Hopefully in the next 10 years we'll get flying cars. Who knows? But you need that technology, because without that, nothing would advance. I mean, we're talking about going to Mars in the next 10 years. Who thought that would be possible when I was a kid? I didn't. So you need to get the technology in the school. You need to expand it. You need to offer more different resources to help kids. But in the end, too, you can't spend all your time in front of a computer. You can't spend all your time in front of a tablet or a cell phone. You have to go out there and experience the real world and experience it through your eyes and your hands, because ultimately that will help you in the long run more than a computer ever will.
Thank you. Tracy Blair?
Okay, so if you go on the Department of Public Instruction's website, they actually have a video that you can watch, and it's really cute. It's two parents that are sending their freshmen off to college, and he goes through this whole scenario about how he's going to change his degree 12 times during the time he's in college, and then end up with a degree that he doesn't need. So the Department of Instruction has decided that we need to hone in on this so that parents and kids aren't wasting their money. So kids have the choice now, it's called Pathways of Wisconsin, to actually choose the academic and career path that they want to take. So when you get to technology, one of those things is that they actually use a tool called Zello, which they can go on and learn what are their learning styles, what's their personality, what's their strength finder, what interests do they have that they can inventory. And then they go and explore all the different careers and technical education, and they go to career fairs and do job shadows and summer programs. And then they have this pathway that they develop so that they know once they graduate, maybe I want to be a nurse, or I want to be a teacher, or I want to be accountant or whatever. So they know before they leave the school, or even like with the trades, with being an electrician, they know before they leave that they're going to now be focused on what they want to do, what they really have a desire to do, because you cannot last in a career of anything if you don't love what you're doing. I love nursing. That's why I've been in it for 30 years. I picked the right career. And I'm sure because of all the different courses I took in high school, it helped me with that. So they do have specific jobs that they've identified that are high demand career jobs, which they can focus on with those career paths. They also, another thing that we've done in the Muskego, Norway School District is we've also created PLCs. And PLCs are professional learning communities. Those communities are a collaboration of reading specialists, master prepared teachers, and teachers of all like grade levels. And what they do is they focus on trying to decrease the gap of learning for the kids. So we had one from CISA 1 from that organization for 5 years. They were at Test Corners in Lake Dunoon from 2013 to 2018. And what they did is they closed the gap at Test Corners from 43.5% to 100%. And at Lake Dunoon, they went from 67.7% to 92%. So that we realized that this is an essential person that should be in our school district, or an essential situation with these communities to help these kids learn better and close those gaps that we're seeing, through the testing and the evaluations that we're doing on them. So it really helps to have these in place and that we can work with the kids in order to achieve the levels that they should be at. And then again, back to the pathways, get those kids in what they love to do so that they continue on and do a great career in the future.
Thank you. Joseph Bosher.
So Nancy, I think there's a couple ways that we can do this. We want to make sure that pathway is available to everyone, all right? And there's 4 basic pathways that we can provide students. One is they can go straight to a job or the armed forces, right? The second one is they can get a vocational certificate, like a CNC programmer. The third way is they can get an associate's degree, like a respiratory therapist. The fourth way is they can get a bachelor's degree, like an accountant, for example. This community values providing options for all students, and they need to be able to kind of traverse those different pathways as they're going through, their high school career. Not everybody knows what they want to be. I wanted to be a truck driver my freshman year of high school, right? But I think one of the things that we can do is we can constantly listen to what the market is demanding. Okay. And so, because at the end of the day, we're going to be training kids for things that won't exist in the future. Skills that I had or I was trained on, 15, 20 years ago aren't used today. It's just a given. There's a couple ways that we can counter this. We can focus on the core skills, math, grammar, those types of things. We can train in the soft skills that don't disappear, right? And so that's like critical thinking, communication, creativity, collaboration. And then we can also build pipelines of connections to the market, such as what we've done with the Muskego Connect Academy. We have a relationship with the Muskego Chamber of Commerce, with the Waukesha County Business Alliance. Research shows that students who are involved in these career academies actually make $20,000 more 8 years after high school. One other thing, with the Connect Academy, look, I have a relationship. I just sent an email to Jim Mishleg, who heads that up, recently. We're looking to fill kids into our pipeline. I'm in a STEM field, in the software engineering world. We're always struggling to find top talent. It is very, very hard. There's just an incredibly amount of demand for that. One other thing that we do have is we have early college credit programs. We have Start College Now, and we have CAP courses. And these are 3 areas in which we help supplement and expand areas where we can't maybe immediately teach within the schools. We don't have facilities, we don't have staff trained in it. So I think those are great rails that have already been laid and people can take advantage of. So overall, I think there are a lot of different pathways that can be taken advantage of. We can stay really clued into the market, and a lot of things that we have in place are hallmarks of next generation schools.
Thank you. Terry Boyer.
Can you repeat the question?
I can.
It's been a long while.
It
And I'm
has.
starting to wonder what it is.
I'm happy to repeat it. Curriculum decisions can have remarkable effects on students and communities for decades. Please share your views on the changing curriculums that include technology use in education or teaching students for careers that don't exist today.
All right. So at Muskego, we support continual review and adjustment of curriculum to meet the needs of our students, which are always changing. So we always have to be flexible. We want a high achieving learning environment at all times. We want a rigorous education, and we want to offer opportunities to every child. So every child has an opportunity to learn and succeed in whatever their plan is post-graduation. A lot of things were already mentioned that what we're doing. The Pathways of Wisconsin is actually a program that identifies the gap between the demand of jobs and the lack of workers. So we work with them and we develop programs and we develop pathways to fulfill that gap in the community and to fulfill what Wisconsin needs for workers. We have a lot of different paths. I feel like Muskego is the land of opportunity. If you say you want to learn it, we will find a way to get a class for you to learn it in, whether it be creating the whole class itself, if there's enough people interested in it, setting you up to go outside to Carroll University or WCTC. We will have we'll set that up. We have a tremendous number of students that are taking advantage of that. The fresh curriculum is super important. Partnerships, the pathways, education for employment, our academic and career planning that actually starts in 6th grade. So in 6th grade, kids are learning about different things that are out there, and they're teaching them different things in 6th grade so that when they proceed through school and they continue to work on doing their career planning, they have a really good focus on what they want to do post-graduation. And our goal is just to make sure that when they get to graduation that they're going to be successful when they walk over that stage, and they are going to be successful in their next point in their journey of life. The Connect Academy is probably the biggest gem. I love it. It has grown substantially in the last year. We have 1,900 students that are involved. That's incredible. 1,900 students that we've been able to touch through this. 212 unique business partner cooperations together. And we have hundreds of more businesses to contact. This program, I believe, is going to explode. It's already exploded, but it's even going to get bigger. Technology, well, thank goodness Muskego is on top of technology, because when COVID hit, we were ready. We didn't have a problem with our technology and getting it out there. We have strong technology. And it also, during that time, the teachers learned to use technology in very unique ways to help our students learn, whether they were on quarantine at home or in school. So I think we'll use some of that in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, this next question, you will have 3 minutes. What are your goals for the district as a board member? And we're going to start with Lori Contney when she is ready.
Just writing it down. Okay. So long vision and my goals for the board or for the district as a board member is I would envision a district where every child has their unique needs met through the educational system. I talk about, and I did a little focus on like the use of the bell curve, for example, in education, where when we look at a bell curve, we know that the majority of people are going to fall in the middle. However, there's always going to be people that are kind of falling behind, and there's always going to be people ahead of the curve. And it's just not a good model to use for teaching. So while you might be helping the majority in the middle, what happens to those on the ends? So for me, I really truly believe that we can't just teach to where we want our students to be at the end of the semester. We need to figure out where they're at now, meet them where they're at, and bring them along. And that might mean different resources and different needs for different children at different times and in different ways and in different subjects. I mean, I think, you ask me about math and it's not a strong suit, but you ask me about English or critical thinking or science and I love it. We all are different and unique. And I think it's so important that regardless of anything from an attribute of that child, that we look at individually. Where are they at and how do we bring them along? And those require resources. We definitely need to look at, from a budgetary standpoint, how do we provide that kind of learning and an assessment, because it does take time and it's harder when you've got bigger class sizes. So I think if we really want to live our mission of providing the optimal education and the optimal educational learning environment, we really need to take a look at and consider, how do we help the kids that are behind the curve, but how do we also challenge the ones that are ahead that may not be taking an AP course, for example. But I think the challenge is doing that in a fiscally responsible manner without raising taxes, and those are all challenges. And I really feel like I've got ideas on how we can do that, and how we can incorporate strategies, and how we can build collaborations, and how we can accomplish that goal. But that would be my goal: every child challenged and supported. And I think that's really important too, is you've got to set high expectations, but then you got to support each and every child to achieve them. And you really need to look at what that support may be, whether it's psychological, emotional, intellectual, physical, whatever those kids need. And I know that sounds like a big goal, but you asked, so that would be my goal. Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin Zimmerman.
So a lot of my goals are, I want to keep the community in balance with our needs, and continue partnerships with the community, either through Connect Academy or other ways for that. I want to also try to empower our teachers and our students to continue to be more initiative. I want to keep us on the current track of being fiscally responsible. Like I said, keep the tax base as what it is, if not try to lower it. I want to focus on today and long-term mental health and wellness. Like I've preached before, that's a major issue with the community nowadays. Another thing that I'm a strong component for, and I've been telling people this, is I'm a strong component for individual rights. I believe personally, especially with the way we are in this pandemic, that the mask issue should be reevaluated. At a minimum, a survey should go out to the families in this community and given options of what they think would be best suited for their kids. I believe that needs to be done, because I strongly believe more families than not will decide that they don't want their kids in masks, and that it should be a personal family choice, not a requirement to go to school. I mean, just the other day, the CDC lowered restrictions on kids can be 3 feet apart, and you don't have to have partitions anymore. So it's an ever evolving and different scenario, and I believe that needs to be addressed. Ultimately, I would like to see it go away, but I also want the community's feedback, because I believe that's transparency, and that's very important to move things forward. I'm also a strong component for the trades. Because I was a carpenter before I was a police officer, and it's a really rewarding career. It's hard, but it's really rewarding. And the Muskego district does have classes, but they don't have all the different trades. I believe they can expand on that and encompass more. When I was looking through the curriculum, they didn't have anything regarding plumbing. Their electrical training was decent, but it was just dealing with circuits. I think you need to expand on that. And I believe if we keep doing that, it gives kids more options to succeed once they get out of school. And also, one of my major goals is teaching the kids on how to think, not what to think. And nowadays, kids get a lot of their influences from schools, being it from their teachers and also from their family. And I don't believe it's the school's responsibility to teach kids what to think. They should teach them how to think, and how to think on their own for every type of situation that may come about. Because ultimately, once they're out of school, they're on their own, and they need to know how to think in the real world without a teacher telling them how to or what to think.
Thank you. Tracy Blair.
Thank you. All right, so I have several goals in mind. Definitely, I do think our STEAM program needs an upgrade. I do think after 30 years, I think the woodworking department, the CNC program, or the automotive department probably could have a few new tools or a few new areas. So I think we could maybe use some of our fund balance or something to try to help that department out so that they can offer those creative thinking skills and the innovation skills that our kids need to be in everyday life. Mental health obviously is a huge thing for me. I do want to make sure that every kid that is in our district feels comfortable while learning, that they're not stressed out and that they don't have anxiety with that. Budget wise, I am definitely conservative minded, so I want to make sure that we're not just randomly spending money on things. I have gone to bat on a few things, and if you watch some of the school board meetings, I can get a little heated on spending money on things that I just don't think are necessary, and I will on occasion vote against the group just because I feel like maybe it's just not necessary to have that particular item. My biggest goal that I would like to see is we right now are at 83.8% of a rating for our school district. It significantly exceeds. So we've hit the 83. It's 83 to 100 is where it goes green and you're like, yay, we're doing great. But there are schools that are doing better than us. And why can't we be better too? Why can't we be Arrowhead or Hamilton or those other schools that are scoring higher on those tests and those assessments that we can't quite achieve that too. So I'd like to see us kind of closing that gap or making us get a little stronger on that. And then another one, retaining good staff. Like if we don't have great teachers, which we already do, but if we don't retain them and keep them, then we're going to see some other problems happening within the district. We'll see some gaps happening if we're not getting that cohesiveness throughout our teaching staff. So what does that mean? Does that mean that we have to offer them, maybe some teaching or some curriculum type things that they could do to increase their knowledge on a specific topic? Maybe. Is it that we have to be very mindful of what we are offering to them so we're competitive with other districts? Absolutely. The other last thing I want to just point out is that I am here for you. So when I went door to door, I ran into a family that was concerned about their kid being able to participate in some other activities that the school district was offering. It's actually in our policy 9270. So I've now put that forth to have it be looked at again at our next school board meeting to see if we can get it changed to help this family out. I am here for you. I want you to reach out to me. Let me know what's on your mind. What do you want to see happen within our district? And I will be here to advocate and get that accomplished. Thanks.
Thank you. Joseph Bosher.
So if I could summarize it, it would be executing well on our current strategy. Again, when you look at a school board, they have three primary responsibilities. They set the vision and the strategy. They set policies. They are involved with community leadership. And they help manage the superintendent relationship and hold ourselves accountable. I think we've done a really good job on forming the strategy, pushing down those goals to every single school. If you look at our balanced scorecard, it's absolutely outstanding and amazing. We have three strategic pillars. Those three strategic pillars are, we want to have exemplary student learning and engagement. We want to have highly effective personnel and expert teaching. And we have sound stewardship and community support. And there's a lot of things that all fall into that, and I want to keep on executing on that well. For the board specifically, we have a master plan around STEM and increasing that. We have getting ourselves out of this pandemic mess, and then raising the bottom 25% and around student achievement. And that's really another thing around the student achievement side. The reason that people move to this community is for the schools. We've surveyed this. We've done lots of surveys on this. It's the number one reason. People move to the community because of the schools. Research bears this out too. You increase your test scores 5%, and it increases the home values 3%. Every 5% increase, 3%. I can tell you what doesn't work out is, when schools don't stay open 100% of the time. Our schools have stayed open 100% of the time. We're not like Waukesha or Wauwatosa that where 25% of their kids are failing right now. We've stayed open. Otherwise, I think it's focusing on some of the fundamentals with student achievement. It's creating an atmosphere where every student can learn and be engaged, right? It's doing more to make sure that the parents are engaged. I love our teachers. I love engaging with our teachers. They're very responsive. They care incredibly about our students. It's just outstanding. Perhaps allocating more for interventionalists and more quickly identifying the gaps in the younger ages. I've seen that. Maybe we could pay a little bit more attention there. But again, creating those critical thinking skills, making sure that everybody has access to high quality content that's specialized for their needs. And then, giving our teachers and administrators the flexibility to use validated practices and strategies to really make sure that they're meeting the needs of the students, and then holding them accountable. I think our district has made great strides. If you look back 8 years, our district report card was around 74%. Today, it's at 83%. I'd like us to go towards that upper 80s, that 90%. I want to knock off Arrowhead and Elmbrook. We dominate them on the football field. I want to dominate them in the classroom, right? So that's kind of my focus for the next term. Thank you.
Thank you. Terry Boyer.
All right. My number one immediate goal is to stay open. If anybody remembers a year ago, I watched that meeting recently. I watched that meeting the day that we came back into school to have our board meeting after the entire state shut down. There was no cars on the street. There was nobody in the stores. We were shut down. That was in March. We went to work. Our board went to work. We wanted to stay open. We knew that was the best thing for our students. We knew that they needed to be butts in the seats at school. We took a look at every single option that we had, and we were the only school in the state that I'm aware of that had summer school that year. We did it. We did it. From March, we started summer school a few months later after the entire state was shut down. This board did it. I was part of that. It was a lot of work. It was a lot of burden on our shoulders because, of course, is it going to work? Is it not going to work? We thought positive. We moved forward. We had a successful path planned out. We kept them in school. We kept them safe, and we need to stay that way. My second goal would probably be remain a balanced budget and fiscally sound. We talked about funding and things like that, so I'm not going to go into that too much. District of choice in every field. Athletics, academics, everything. We want to be number one here in Muskego. In all fields, do you know that when kids play in athletics or that they're in extracurricular activities, their GPAs go up? Their ACT scores go up? We want to keep those things engaged, new, fresh, lots of kids involved. I don't remember the exact statistics, but I think there was at the high school like 55 different options for students to do. It's super important to be the district of choice. The Connect Academy is going to play a great deal in that because we open those opportunities for students, and they're going to come here because we have those opportunities. I'll touch a little bit on the STEAM. I feel at this point in time, it's not a good time to talk about any kind of addition, renovation, anything like that. We have gotten creative with STEAM. We have sent kids to WCTC to take those plumbing classes, the welding classes. We have put kids in hands-on learning situations, going out to the unions, going out to the job sites. There is nothing better than learning a job, using your hands, seeing somebody do it that has been doing it for years. Closing gaps, another one. All kids in our district need to succeed. Keep taxes low, up those scores, so we can be the top district in Southeast Wisconsin. I thought I had another. Oh, I guess I don't.
Thank you. James Bryce.
I'm a plain-spoken guy, so I'll try and keep my answer short. The biggest goal that I would have for the district is maintain the overall success. That doesn't mean don't get better. The fact that we've been open, I think, is great. The fact that we're a great school district and we've been great for a long, long time is great. The fact that it's attracting people to come here, like me, is great. So I think keep on doing that. I think we got to remain fiscally conservative. I think that's incredibly important. We don't want to waste money. When it comes to big ticket items, we have to analyze do we need to spend that money? We talked about the STEM thing, that one thing that probably could improve that STEM program is building a facility that's needed, but that costs a lot of money. Are we doing good with what we got? Maybe we wait a little bit before we try to jump to that next level for that one. I think doing what's good for Muskego and our students, I think it's important to continue to do that. I think avoiding any radical changes in our curriculum. We need to stay focused on what's been successful for us. I think that's incredibly important. I think that we need to continue to be analytical, look at ways we can improve. We talked about, I want to beat Arrowhead and Sussex Hamilton and all these other schools. Constantly analyze. Don't just sit on your hands and think, we're doing great. I don't have to look at anything. I think it's important to continue to try and improve what you're doing. I got that from the military. You always work on improving your position. I think it's important to do. We're sitting good. I just don't want to regress. I want to gradually get better. Our special ed department, I think that's the only thing I think that we really need to improve on, from what I'm hearing, and try and get that up at the level of all our other programs. I think working on our special ed that will definitely pay off. And that's my answer.
Thank you. Thank you, all of you. I know we are really challenging your on-the-spot thinking skills. Each of you have had an opportunity to prepare closing comments. So we are now at that point. You have 3 minutes for closing comments tonight. This is your opportunity to speak directly to the voters that are watching you with a personal summary of your views. We'll begin with Kevin Zimmerman.
I am transparent and focused on the next chapter. This district is strong, but there's always room for improvements. Improvements to ensure we prioritize the kids while giving the community support. As I mentioned before, for instance, while researching and preparing for this role, I discovered that one of our elementary schools didn't get air conditioning until 2020. It was approved in 2019. It's hard to understand how we got to 2020 at an elementary school with no air conditioner. I want to support our kids and ensure that those types of things are not neglected, but brought forward to prioritize our kids' ability to learn and grow into functioning members of society. Elementary to high school, there are needs at every level, and we need to continue to support those needs with the community involvement. We need to keep taxes low, but we also need to get the most bang out of our buck. I recommend annual, if not biannual, surveys to ensure we get community feedback on every step of the way. The first survey I want to go out is recommending the poll, like I stated before, about the masks. I believe that it should be a personal family choice to use masks or not. A mandate is not a law, it's a recommendation, and the CDC has shown that new research is coming out all the time for COVID. Our kids are in a mental health crisis, and we need to work to support them quickly so that the damage from the pandemic doesn't lead to our kids not being able to handle emotions and to continue their skill sets. We need to support our students to becoming members of society, functioning members of society, and I stand to do that. Lastly, each year, if elected, starting the first or at the anniversary date, I will be donated up to 25% of my salary for this job back to the schools, either to the PTO or some organization that the money will go back to the kids. I 100% agree with the slogan that the school district uses: every student learning, growing, and succeeding. But I believe that with the help of myself, we can push that even further.
Thank you, Kevin. Tracy Blair.
Thank you again to the Muskego Women's Club and City of Muskego for giving us this opportunity to share our ideas and philosophy with the community. I would also like to thank the other panel members for sharing their insights as well. And thanks to everyone in the community who is listening on YouTube tonight to hear about my background and credentials. Hopefully by the quality of my answers, you can see the amount of learning and knowledge I have acquired these last 3 years. If you recall, I talked about being on the CISA 1 Board of Control, earning a level 1 from the WASB, and those small accomplishments that meant a lot to the families we serve. I want to leave with one last accomplishment. I'm so proud of our district this last year, what we did during the pandemic. We found a way to equip children with technology or even a good curbside meal. We developed a COVID website that parents could access 24/7. By the end of April, we had 17,866 Google Meets. Such amazing work our staff, administration, and teachers did. I am proud of what they did. We learned with the summer's smaller group that we could accomplish the same thing with a larger group in the fall. Our school board critically thought about what we could do. I mentioned that we have been using the labor pool at the hospital to fill the gaps when staff was out. So we added additional teachers to our district to make sure we could stay open. When families reached out to me about the quarantine guidelines, I encouraged us to meet with the Waukesha Health Department. After hearing our data and information, changes were made. Advocacy, knowledge, and knowing of my resources, like asking my fellow pediatricians what is the best thing for kids, is definitely a unique quality that I bring to this board. My first priority is that the kids are safe to go back to school and have tools and systems in place to keep them safe. I would love to continue to work for you by focusing on making our STEM program or STEAM program more robust and up to date. I truly feel that the amount of learning you get from being creative and innovative can influence any career that the student wants to pursue. I would like to make sure we address the children's mental health by providing them mindfulness activities. Scientists have discovered that mindfulness techniques help improve physical health in a number of ways. I feel that if you are feeling good emotionally and physically, you can be a better learner. In summary, I know many people are looking to hear what my political beliefs are and how they will reflect the decisions I am making. I'm a conservative individual who has always been fiscally sound. I make my decisions based on my moral and values and the research I've done. I do believe that this position is nonpartisan, so I want to reach out to the 30% of Muskego to know that I will be here for you too. I want to represent all of you. Being a pediatric nurse, having 6 kids, and working with the many kids I've either coached, taught, inspired to perform in a talent show or a science fair experiment, I think of them when I think of why I'm running. I think of the many teachers and parents who care deeply for the school district and know that's why I'm running. And the community, I want to support your desire to have a great school district, but remembering to be fiscally conservative at the same time. Abraham Lincoln once said, I am a success today, because I had a friend who believed in me and didn't have the heart to let him down. I would be humbled and honored to give 110%.
I'm so sorry.
Yep. Thank you very much.
I can feel your heart. Thank you, Tracy.
You bet.
Joseph Bosher.
I'd like to thank everyone who put this event on. I think it's a great opportunity to hear from all the candidates. My goal this evening was to demonstrate to you, the voters, that I am a strong fiscal conservative, that I'm committed to the long-term success of this district with 4 children very involved in our schools, that I have a deep and proven appreciation for the role of education in shaping young minds, and a strong desire to take us to the next level. I have a rich set of experiences from my time serving. Library board, community development board, zoning appeals board, the elder board at my church, several boards at work, and of course this school board. All these provide a firm foundation and a rich set of experiences. These are important when setting the direction and the vision for a $133 million organization. I am one who is proud of our response in this current environment. In a world full of bad options, our school stayed open. We didn't flounder and waffle with virtual and hybrid options like other districts did. We stayed strong. Our football program dominated yet again. We had individual state champions in multiple sports. We celebrated academic achievements. The robotics team competed. Bands performed. The musical happened. Prom is happening. We were not doing a Zoom prom party. Kids are excelling. Other districts look at us and say, you nailed it. Now, I understand that there are some who really like to stir the pot on social media. They really enjoy the current hyper-partisan environment and want to bring in all of society's ills onto the local school board. It's life right now. This is what we're in. Hopefully you've seen and understand me, my values, that I care about the future of our schools, and my drive to work as a team to see us succeed. I don't think it's any secret here that there are 6 conservatives sitting before you tonight. Again, this is a nonpartisan position. I think the question worth considering is, how do you feel about our schools? Let's take a look at the evidence. 11 sports championships in 3 years, a 22% decrease in your tax bill, moving from 74% to 83% on our district report card. I believe in Muskegoans. So my ask tonight for when you cast your vote, please consider the totality of the individuals before you and ask whether A, the results of this district are poor and it's time for change, or B, you want to continue the successes we've seen to date. I'm in that second camp and I want to continue it. Thank you again. I'd be honored for your vote.
Thank you, Joseph. Terry Boyer.
All right. My years on the board have been extremely rewarding and challenging. The last year, the board was burdened with many difficult decisions. These decisions affected more than just our 4,800 or so students and the lives of about 570 staff members. When you sit on this board, you are making decisions for thousands of people. Going through this COVID experience was challenging beyond anything. A year ago, when we sat down, our superintendent looked at us and said, all right, we're gonna build this plane while we're flying it. And that's what we did. Looking back, a lot of people say you shoulda, you coulda, we did it. We were in the seats. We built the plane. We flew it successfully, and we led the state. People looked at us as the district to follow. People, how did you do it? I had people texting and asking me from different states, what are you guys doing? How are you doing it? How did you get people to do this? People look to us, what we did as a board, how successful we were. That was the biggest challenge any board has had to deal with. I was aware that challenge in making those decisions was going to be really difficult to get students, families, teachers, everybody on board with the same plan. We weren't going to do it. It wasn't going to happen. We had to have options. You had a virtual option for people who were afraid to come. We were burdened with state mandates coming down, health authorities, CDC. We were being bombarded with different information, health authorities that tell us what is the best thing to do for the betterment of our community and our school district. We had to decide and make decisions for the best of all of our students. We decided, our board decided, we were going to take local control. We were going to stay open. We were not going to close. We were not going to hybrid. We took that control. That is important. When everybody else was saying, stay closed, we said, heck no, Muskego's going forward. We're opening up. We're bringing the students back. We helped our staff. We put enough mitigation measures in place that our staff felt comfortable coming. Because what happens when your staff doesn't come to work or retires because they don't feel comfortable? We don't have class. We did it. We have lowered tax levies. We've kept kids safe, schools open, increased student achievement, won academic, co-curricular, athletic awards. I am a strong advocate. I will continue to hold our district accountable and fight for continued in-person learning and hold a high standard of learning environment for our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. James Bryce.
Well, I want to start off with, you heard all my answers previously. You know my values. You know my train of thought on things. I'm not a politician. I'm plain spoken. I'm a person of few words. I'm beholden to no one but God and my family. I make my decisions based on my values, but I also talk to people. I've explained earlier how I thought one thing about our school system or about one topic, and I looked into it and I talked to people and I saw things and that changed my thinking. That's the type of analytical person that I am. There's a term that the military used to use called military decision-making process, and it's not just finding that one short little thing that's going to, that short-term thing that's the easy way to go. You got to think long-term. You got to think of the second and third order effects of every decision that you make. You got to focus on excellence. You got to focus on constantly improving, and that's the type of person that I am. I think it's important to have that set of eyes, that unique perspective on our school board. I'm not saying our school board needs an entire overhaul. Our school system is great. They're doing a great job. But I think having a different set of eyes will help that school board. And I think that I'm the type of person that any near-term challenges that we have that threaten to radically change how we're doing things, I'm the person you want there standing up, making sure that our school system is working for Muskego and our students and our taxpayers. I think that we're doing a great job, and I want to maintain that. But look at things a little differently and constantly improve what you're doing, and get better by looking and having an open mind to what you're doing. And that's my answer.
Thank you, James. Lori Contney.
So first of all, thank you to everybody. My daughter's a graduate of Muskego High School in a very successful career, and I'll no longer have a child in the Muskego Norway School District, but I still have a stake in our children and our future. I may be new to this dance, but I've been dancing in the world of education for many years. I am passionate about education and ensuring each student receives a quality education according to their abilities. I am pragmatic and will work tirelessly to accomplish tasks that are assigned to me. I'm an active listener who believes in the importance of multiple perspectives to solve problems and to create opportunities. I am not afraid to admit that I don't know something and reach out to those who do or do the homework to better understand the topic. I'll use these experiences and perspective to evaluate and advocate for curriculum and programs that prepare students for success regardless of the life path they may choose. School board members have an impact on many facets of the teaching and learning process and dynamic. School board members are responsible for working with the various stakeholders to ensure a positive and productive learning environment. They are responsible for crafting and monitoring a fiscally responsible budget to support the resources while being good stewards of your taxpayer dollars. All stakeholders should collaborate to support the school district's mission, and I believe I have the collaborative spirit and ability to creatively work to solutions. Each Friday in March, I've been posting a pearl of wisdom on teaching and learning and how it ties into the roles and responsibilities of a school board member. Past topics include stakeholders and factors influencing teaching and learning, the dangers of using the bell curve and why it's important to meet learners where they're at, and then most recently, authentic assessment. You can find my posts on my Facebook page at Lori Contney, MNSD. At the risk of sounding cheesy, and it is Wisconsin, so a part of a lyric from Whitney Houston speaks to me, and I do promise you I will not sing it. I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. I truly believe this, and I ask for your vote on April 6th so that I can use the gifts and talents that God has given me to serve the Muskego Norway School District with the goal of teaching our children well and helping them discover the beauty that lies within them. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to all of you. I would like to close this evening by saying congratulations to each of our candidates for their civic awareness and willingness to run for a school board position. It was actually quite impressive. All of you were so well prepared in your answers, and you didn't even know what the questions were going to be. So clearly you put a lot of thought into deciding to run for the position. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us tonight. Hearing from you is invaluable to our voters. This short time together was so important in helping our voters be well informed. Once again, thank you so much to the mayor's office, Jake, our technical expert, and all the staff at Muskego City Hall. We know tonight was possible because of their dedication and hard work for our community. To those listening, thank you for sharing your time with us. Please vote. You make all the difference in the world. Good night from the candidates and from Muskego Women's Club.